Hey YouTubers, welcome back. Galactic Storyteller with part 2 of LDS Satanic Symbols. If you have not watched part 1, I'm going to implore you to stop the video right now. Go back and view that. You'll want to do that because the information that we're going to cover in part 2 does make reference to material that was already discussed in part 1, and we don't want to leave you behind. I apologize for not getting this video out the way I said I would. We went out of town, my husband and I ended up twisting my ankle. The doctor put me in one of those hideous industrial boots that I didn't wear after 2 days and then ended up breaking my toe. So lesson learned there. My foot is on the mend, but it did throw me a little bit behind, so I apologize about that. We're going to jump right into Q&A. I've had a lot of questions recently, and I would say over the last month, on how to remove your name from church records. This is actually a very simple process, and in the description box, along with all the references we're going to go over, as usual, I do like to list those. I will also leave the address for the church headquarters where you will send in a letter that states that you want your name removed from church records. Now, it was very simple for me, but if you guys need help, I do have a template that I can give to you. I'll just remove my personal information, and you will send it into the address that is in the description box. They will send you a simple little letter response. I'm covering up my personal information right here, but it's on church letterhead. This is the address right here, so if you guys want to pause that, you're welcome to do that. Very simple and easy. I think where you're actually going to get the most resistance will be on a local level, because at that point your local church leaders will be informed of your name being removed from church records, and chances are they're going to amp up their reactivation efforts. So good luck with that. It was at that point that I had to get kind of stern with my neighbors that I had lived around for 13 years and saying, please stop, because they can be pretty persistent. So let me know. I'll be happy to get that information to you. Question number 2. This comes from Oakley. And she writes a letter. Hey, Galactic Storyteller, I really like your channel and have found the information interesting and very helpful. I come from a Mormon family, but have decided I can't buy into it anymore. I'm 17 in my senior year of high school, and I'm still being forced to go to church, which I hate since I still live at home. My parents won't listen and don't understand that I just don't have the same beliefs as they do. This wouldn't be the first time we've heard this from a teenager, Oakley, I promise you that. I guess I never did, because making this decision to leave the church hasn't been that hard. Dealing with my family has been impossible. My friend made an announcement on her Facebook page that she's no longer interested in the church, and that's caused a shitstorm for her, her family, and the ward. I'm not so willing to do that and want to know how you think I should handle them. My mom's already disappointed in me and lays down a guilt trip all the time about how she's failed as a mom in raising up her children righteously. It used to tear at me and make me feel bad, but now I'm just so tired of hearing it that it's easier to tune her out. I feel bad in saying I'm becoming numb to their manipulative antics, but don't know what else to do. How can I deal with this? Because I really feel like they have me trapped and there's nowhere for me to go. Do you have any advice that can help me get through this last year at my hell house? Thanks, Oakley. Well, first of all, Oakley, I hope that you're just being dramatic in calling your house a hell house. I know a lot of teenagers get to this point where they just feel like their parents don't understand them. This is not unusual, and they start to pull away. This psychologically is actually a pretty good and healthy thing to do, as long as you're not going too far to the left, because what you're doing is psychologically getting ready to be out and on your own. So this can be seen as a good thing. I know from a parent's perspective, they know that your time in the house is very, very short. And so this can be a last-ditch effort to help you build a testimony. It doesn't always work, but what you take with you when you leave the house will likely be your foundation for quite some time. If you truly have gone through all the videos in the Expo series, you are learning the information, looking into the resources, and building a foundation of knowledge, then you can come to your parents with this arsenal of information and say, this is why I believe what I believe, and you'll have a much stronger foundation to stand on. That may not change anything for them because you're still under 18 and still living in their house. And when you become a parent, if this is something that you decide in your future, chances are you're going to require your children to have the same belief system and follow the household rules until they're out and on their own. This is just the way it goes. Now, I want to congratulate you actually on building a foundation of knowledge. We've lost the art of critical thinking in this country, and we leave it to the dictates of others to tell us what we think, what we believe, and how to go about our lives. We abdicate those rules, abdicate that responsibility to everybody other than ourselves. So if you are truly taking responsibility for your belief system and your knowledge, then I want to congratulate you on that and hope that you are really doing the homework, because then once you're armed with information, you're solid. You're solid. And chances are you're just going to have to toe the line until you're out and on your own, and then you can do whatever you like. I wish you the best, Oakley. Keep us informed and let us know how you are doing. We're going to jump into Satanic symbolism or symbolism on the LDS temple, and you guys can decide whether or not you feel the symbolism that they have put all over the temples bears any sort of references to Satanism or not, or if you feel like these are Christian symbols. Now, we did talk a little bit in video 1 about the 5-pointed star. I do not repeat myself, so if you want to go back and take a look at that information, this is the 5-pointed star. When it is upside down, in the pentagram form, you've got the Baphomet, okay, or the Goat of Mendes. This is the most notorious satanic symbol. It's not the most powerful, but it is the most notorious, and this is why Anton LaVey uses this on the cover of his Bible, the Satanic Bible. The reason why I mention that is because we're going to start with symbol number 6 today. This is the inverted pentagram. Only if you look closely, you will see that the bottom point, which represents the spirit, is extended. Okay, now the extended point is said to represent the fall of the morning sun. Well, who is the morning sun? There are references in the Bible that refer to both Christ and Lucifer as being the morning star, the morning sun. Christ is said to be the brightest of the morning star. But if you go to the visitor center, okay, go right up to where the Christus is. Christ is standing there with his hands out. You will see planters boxes all along in front of him, and if you remove the seats and kind of look at the edifice, you will see 18 of these inverted pentagrams or stars with the elongated spirit pointing down to the bottom. Now, if that truly represents Christ, why wouldn't they use this symbol? Is this not the most recognized symbol for Christ? Am I mistaken here? I don't think that I am. Why would you choose an inverted symbol with the extended spirit down representing the fall of the morning sun and cause such ambiguity? I really would like to know. So if somebody from the church wants to contact me, and I'm talking apostles, anybody from the 70s, I'll take the profit. Just give me a call. Let me know why these symbols are used when they could have avoided all the confusion by just putting the crucifix there in lieu of the inverted pentagram. I'm open to understanding your answer. So please contact me with that. Moving on. Now we're going to go over the inverted pentagram inside of the trapezoid. So let's take a look at that. The inverted pentagram in the circle is the most notorious, but the inverted pentagram inside of a trapezoid is actually the most powerful satanic symbol. See that? The trapezoid right there? And yet you've got this particular symbol all over the Salt Lake Temple. They're above every window. I think that makes 40 of these inverted pentagrams inside of the trapezoid all over the Salt Lake Temple. And I would like to know why. If you go to Eagle's Gate, again, you will see the inverted pentagram right here inside of the trapezoid. Very interesting. If somebody would like to let me know why that's there, I'd appreciate that. If you ask an ex-Satanist, or if you Google it, then you will find this to be the most powerful symbol that they utilize. Why is it there? I couldn't tell you. Over this symbol, we have the eagle. The eagle is actually very rich in symbolism. In Masonic symbolism, oftentimes you will see a double-headed eagle. But whether it is a double-headed eagle or just a one-headed eagle, this is our U.S. national emblem that does carry a very rich history. So let's go over that. The eagle symbolizes strength, courage, farsightedness, and immortality. It is considered to be the king of the air and the messenger of the highest gods. Mythologically, it is connected by the Greeks with the god Zeus, by the Romans with Jupiter, by the Germanic tribes with Odin, who shapeshifted into an eagle, and the Druids as a symbol of the supreme god. You also have to remember from Part 1, we talked about the ancient bloodlines, the Merovingians, which it is said that Joseph, Brigham, they come through the Merovingian lines, which they believe themselves to be demigods. Okay, so this goes way deeper than what you might think the eagle represents. It is a bird sacred to the sun in Egypt. How many times have we covered Baal and sun gods of Egypt? Numerous times. And in Greece, it was the emblem of Jupiter. And what was Joseph found dead with? A Jupiter's talisman in his pocket. Astrology, zodiacal references, very, very rich in history. There was a comment below about, do you really think that the LDS church would put satanic symbols on their temples? Well, you do the work. You find out for yourself. One thing I will say is that these men who were responsible for building the temple, and let's talk about the Salt Lake Temple. We won't get into Nauvoo or Kirtland or Manti, but in 1853, when the Salt Lake Temple started construction, these men such as Willard Richards, Truman Angell, who was responsible for the architecture. You've got Orson Pratt, Brigham Young. These were all Masons who knew this information. The lay Mormon didn't have any idea what was going on. I'm sure they just thought a pretty moon was a pretty moon and representative of one of the 3 degrees of glory. I don't know why Heavenly Father didn't reach out to Brigham and say, hey, I know you're going to be long dead by the time the internet comes around, but eventually this information is going to come to light. He just didn't do that. Maybe that's because Brigham Young was just as valid of a prophet as Joseph Smith, and we all know what I think there. So you guys do your homework. These men didn't think that this information was going to come to light to you and I. Okay, they just had no way of foreseeing the internet, and for some reason, Heavenly Father didn't think to tell them that. Let's get into the apron, symbol number 9, the LDS apron. Now, I'm going to show you a picture here, which is quite funny. I think some might find it blasphemous, but whatever. This is from the Heber Creeper. And I think this is probably more authentic as far as what Adam and Eve were said to be wearing and what they look like. And this is outside of the glasses and the lightsaber. But the apron has a lot of symbolic meaning, and there's no way we can cover all of it today. So you'll have to go into deeper meanings of that all on your own, but we're going to cover some basics here. I'm going to read to you some information from LDSendowment.com regarding the meaning of the apron, and then we're going to look at some of the Masonic information that they do put out. After eating of the tree of knowledge, Adam and Eve heard the voice of Elohim. They are sent into a panic by Lucifer, who tells them, quote, "See, you are naked. Take some fig leaves and make you aprons. Father will see your nakedness. Quick, hide." Lucifer is successful in instilling a fear of God in Adam and Eve. This is illustrated by Adam's remarks to Eve, quote, "Come, let us hide." Later, in conversing with Elohim, Adam remarks, "I heard thy voice and hid myself because I was naked." It may be important at this time to notice that some of the prior conversations between Lucifer and Adam in order to consider this topic further. Of course, it is Adam and Eve themselves, not God, who clothe themselves with the apron. Moreover, it is done at the suggestion of Lucifer, who is the master of deception. After partaking of the tree of knowledge, Adam notices that Lucifer wears an apron and asks him, "What is that apron you have on?" Lucifer replies, "It is an emblem of my power and priesthoods." Of course, Lucifer has no power or priesthoods, but he likes to think so. In reality, Lucifer has no power except that which man chooses to give him. Likewise, he has no power in the garden over Adam and Eve, but they choose to give him their attention. This is the same with all men and women. Lucifer only has the power of those whom choose to give it to him. Thus, this power is of man's own creation, not that of Lucifer's. So they're kind of defending Lucifer right here. Lucifer's power lies in deception. When men and women learn the truth, which is knowledge, then they are free of him. When this happens, Lucifer is left without power, and it is said to be bound. Now, that part I agree with, but let me ask you why it is that in the temple they put on the apron, and we, by doing that, acknowledge what Lucifer is saying and his directive, so we, of our own free will and choice, are putting on those vestments and giving Lucifer that power. I mean, really, if we're going to listen to Elohim, wouldn't we all just run around naked? If there's nothing wrong with that? No. We're acknowledging what Lucifer has to say, we're wearing his vestments, and we are continuing to put our power to that by acknowledging and wearing the apron. Food for thought. Let's take a look at a Masonic apron. Now, I have chosen this particular apron, even though there are so many to choose from. I really like this one because it does have a lot of the symbols on it, on this one apron, from the symbols that we covered in part 1. And we'll talk about the top part of this picture in a minute, but have a good look at that. Okay, we've got the Eye of Horus right here, right? If we look down here, we've got the square and the compass. We're going to get into that in just a moment. You can see Baal hiding in there. We've also got the 2 towers, or the pillars, of Jachin and Boaz, or Jachin and Boaz, depending on how you pronounce that. We have not gone over the pillars, but hiding right behind here, you can see the moon under this fringe. I spent a lot of time looking at this particular one because you can see the moon. This one, you can't see anything. So I have no idea what that actually looks like because I'm not a Mason. We're going to come back to the symbolism on top here in just a second, but let's look at the esoteric meaning behind the apron. Now, there's a lot of misinformation about the apron that is put out there. I know with the exoteric material that the Masons will show you does not cover what I'm about to give to you right now. And no doubt there's a reason for that. But even as you go through the degrees of Masonry, you're going to find that the information changes. In fact, most Masons don't even know that there are 365 degrees. Okay, so that's a lot of information to learn. This information right here is the history of the apron, which goes back to Egypt. Aprons are female symbols originally worn in Egypt by semi-naked, pubescent girls in order to conceal their genitalia during periods of menstruation. Masons wear them to symbolically feminize themselves and present themselves as ritually and maybe even physically castrated eunuchs in service to their goddess. Now, before you Masons have a cow, let's go a little bit further here, and I'm going to give you the information or the resource of where I got this. Unless you are higher than 33rd degree, you probably don't know that this is actually the origin. Keep that in mind. Masonic aprons are loaded with female symbolism. There can be little doubt that Weishaupt, Loyola, and men of their abnormal kind were desexed eunuchs, expertly hiding their pathological tendencies behind the veneer of patriarchal edifices such as the Catholic Church and Templarist secret societies, the Templars themselves being ardent disciples of the ancient dragon sisterhood. Were you aware of that? The genital wounding also serves as a ritual imitation of the wound of Lucifer, who fell into the depths of the underworld, deprived of his virility and authority. Now, this is from femaleilluminati.com. You'll definitely want to study Michael Tessarian, who is a major Irish researcher who knows his homework. So you could spend a lifetime studying Michael, and I would suggest that you do that. If you are in doubt of the fact that the female power does run the order, I want you to go back and look at who really is in control. It's not the Duke of Edinburgh, even though you see him at the Masonic rituals and all their royal festivals. It's actually his wife, the Queen. Look at her coronation video. You're going to see a lot of Masonic symbolism in her dress regalia, all around the environment. There's a portion there where they cover her head, and underneath they're doing signs, symbols, and this is all because she is the head of the Masonic order. And if you ask any man and he's being honest with you, he'll tell you who really runs the house. That's probably not him. So lots of information about that. Just as a little bonus, you guys know I like to do bonuses. Let's take a look at this. This is a one version of the apron, and it happens to look like the Gmail symbol. What does Gmail stand for? It's not really Google Mail. The M is in reference to Masonry. And this little point here, when it is facing up, has an entirely different meaning that we can't go into all the meanings, of course. But just so you know, this Gmail is in reference to Masons. Okay, so it is everywhere. We're going to get to our last symbol, which is the circle inside of the square. There's nothing really satanic about that. I don't believe, I haven't found anything satanic about it, but I do want to cover the meaning because we're not told what it is, and yet we see evidence of it all over the temples. The picture that I'm going to show you is from the Las Vegas and the DC temples, but they're not the only ones to have this particular symbol on it. All right, this might look familiar. You see that? Very symbolic, but we don't have any idea what it means because we are not told at all what the circle in the square actually means. So I'm going to give you guys the meaning from the trumpetstone.blogspot. The circle in the square represents heaven and earth coming together, a great temple symbol. The heavens are often described as a bowl and often symbolized by a circle. In paintings, God is often depicted as laying out the heavens with a compass and the earth with a square. The square is made with a square and represents the earth, which is often described as having four corners. The temple is a place that represents the union of heaven and earth and where heavenly beings literally come. And that part we know. The circle in the square can remind us of our temple covenants. Now, I just want to stop right here for a second because this kind of aggravates me a little bit. If that's true, and I don't have a problem with the fact that we need to reflect on our spirit in the temporal form and how we move about this temporal world in a spiritual way. I don't have a problem with that. What I have an actual issue with is the fact that we're not told this. You have to dig for this information, and the only reason the church even puts out semi-accurate information on this is because they've been called on the carpet a number of times regarding their deception and the church's literal past, their real history. So you have to really dig and know where this information on the church websites are in order to even get this material. I taught in many of the auxiliaries for 40 years. I was LDS, and I taught in primary, young women's, relief society. I even taught gospel doctrine, and at no time was this information divulged at all. And yet I think it's really important for us to be thinking about our spiritual nature in the physical, and if this symbol is really what it represents, why aren't we told? That's another question that I have. I'm asking you, brethren, why aren't we told? Why isn't this covered in sacrament? And if it was covered in your sacrament, I really would like for you guys to send me a note and inform me, okay? I'm open to learning that. But in my 40 years in the church, never once was this divulged. Let's go to, again, the trumpetstone.blogspot. The square and compass thus symbolizes man's state as an eternal soul manifesting in a temporary body. The circle is our spiritual side that cannot be seen, heard, touched, tasted, or smelled. It is our true inner and perfect self, the part that we feel when we close our eyes and think me. I don't have a problem with that. What I have a problem with is the fact that in all my years of prayer and meditation, never once did I consider to think me when I saw a circle and a square, because I didn't know to do that. Why is that? If it's so damn important and it means so much to the church in its symbolism, why are we not told that? Let me know. The compasses, however, are bounded by the square. Our circle is bounded by our body. Think here of a four-sided square and think how we experience nature in fours. Again, symbolism that we're not told in sacrament or anywhere in the scriptures. The four cardinal points, northeast, southwest. We have the four seasons, spring, winter, fall, summer. The four elements, earth, air, water, and fire, and the four states of matter, solid, liquid, gas, and plasma. It never occurred to me while I took the sacrament, I know you're supposed to be thinking about your covenants that you take at baptism, but in those quiet, silent moments when your kids are being quiet and you have a moment to reflect, why aren't we reflecting on our four states of matter, about being plasma, about being gas and matter? Why are we not thinking about those things? Lord knows I would have much rather been pondering this type of stuff than spending a night at enrichment learning useless things like toll painting. I didn't find that valuable at all. But this I would have really enjoyed, that spiritual temporal exploration. 4 represents the imperfect physical body, as well as earthly desires and carnal appetites that weigh the body down. Human life is vulnerable and temporary in stark contrast with the invulnerable and permanent soul. I think you could spend a lot of time reflecting on this. Okay, I'm going to skip, well, maybe I won't. Let's take a look at this. Damon Wagstaff, Standard Masonry, 1922. There's one sign that has never changed its meaning anywhere in the civilized world. That is the square and the compass, a sign of the union of the body and soul. I just don't understand why we're not taught that if it's that important, which I believe the union of the soul and the body to be that important. The compass stands for the spiritual side of man, while the square appertains to the material world. The square represents matter. In the case of the compasses, they represent the spiritual. This is from J.S. Ward, Interpretation of Our Masonic Symbols. I have a feeling I'd get more out of going to one of their meetings than I did a sacrament meeting, but that's a different story. Let's take a look at this picture here. Okay, I want to point out a couple of things. Yes, we see the all-seeing eye of Horus. We see the sun rays, which represents Baal. We've got the square and the compass. So why do they use this? Look down here. See this compass? It actually equals a circle, because the circle, eternity, is what you draw with the compass. Okay, so notice how the compass, when you draw the circle, it has a deeper meaning. Okay, than just using it for architecture. The square tool on the bottom draws a square shape. So when you look at the square, it literally equals the square. Okay, so what this symbol of the square and compass represents is the circle inside of the square. Okay, the square and circle shapes are related in Euclid's 47th problem of squaring the circle, said to be the primary goal of the Masonic craft. Okay, we square our leaders, we raise our hand to the square when anybody is called to a position. So in the temporal, we are saying, yes, we recognize their authority. Squaring the circle, however, does not in this case refer to a mathematical problem. It is a spiritual reference to man's instinctive quest to harmonize our physical and our spiritual matters. Since antiquity, the square has represented the physical body. The circle, on the other hand, always represents the soul. And we know that because the circle goes on forever. That's why we wear a wedding ring. Okay? This is from richardcaruso.com. I will leave that in the description box so that you guys can ponder on that, because I do think that this one is really important. I know that some of this information can be difficult, but really the truth doesn't change just because you don't want to hear it. In fact, truth can be the most difficult thing to hear. We're not taught that. We've been taught that if you pray, you'll know these things are true. Well, the nature of prayer doesn't matter what you're praying about. The nature of prayer feels good. Okay, when we are in that state of prayer, physiologically, we are open, we're feeling good. Prayer is a higher vibration act, and we respond to it spiritually and physiologically. So it feels good when we pray. You can pray about dirt, and you're still going to get a good feeling. That doesn't mean dirt is true. Okay, but if you start, and maybe I'll challenge you to do that. Pray about all the things that you get from dirt, the minerals that grows our food. That doesn't mean we want to bank our spiritual salvation on dirt. Okay, but truth doesn't always feel good. I had a dog that we loved. He was hit and killed in front of all three of my children and in front of the Boy Scout troop. That is true. But I'm guessing it doesn't make you feel good to know that. Truth can be very difficult. It's just the nature of it. So I would challenge you guys to think about that as you go through this information. Just because it doesn't feel good doesn't mean it's not true. You're going to have to do your homework. You're going to have to look into these things. You're going to have to ponder it, build a foundation of knowledge. And as you do that, truth, even though it's difficult, will eventually come to a point where acceptance does make it feel better, inside. And then at some point as you go through your progression and your healing, you actually can laugh about these things. I know that's the case with myself and many people that I do consults with. It's that time and that acceptance that does help them with the truth, even as difficult as it may seem. So if you guys have any questions, you can contact me at galacticstoryteller@gmail.com. You're welcome to go to my website.com. As always, like and subscribe. Let me know what your comments are, as long as they are polite. Provide resources. It's really that simple. Hope you guys are doing great, and we'll see you in the next video.